Okay, well, I'm going to kick things off. Hi, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Juanita Lee Garcia, and I'm the Senior Manager of Strategic Partnerships and Social Impact at Venture for Canada. I'm calling in from Toronto, where I live and work on the land of the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit River. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you today and to introduce you to an incredible group of people who are part of Venture for Canada's fellowship program and or part of Next Canada's Next 36 and Next Founders programs to tell you about the differences, similarities, their program experiences, and share best tips and tricks for the application. This group has accomplished so much, and I am so excited to be able to connect with them and to share their stories with you. Venture for Canada is a national charity that accelerates the careers of Canadian youth by providing them with immersive learning opportunities at Canadian startups and small businesses. And Next Canada's mission is to uncover the next generation of entrepreneurs and supercharge their ambition by showing them what's possible. Two different programs, some folks do both, and we're really excited to tell you more about each of those experiences. I'm going to introduce Lauren D'Souza, who will be telling us about her experience with the Next 36 and a little bit more about that program, as well as do a presentation on what they're all about. And we'll move on to meet Rehan Memon, who will be telling us about his experience as a Venture for Canada Fellow. And then we'll go on to a panel with some other guests joining us. So I just want to make sure that you can all hear me okay. Thumbs up, cool. My headphones keep on going in and out. So Lauren D'Souza is an alumni of the 2020 cohort of Next 36. She's currently working on a venture called ACE, which I'm very excited to hear more about. ACE is an interview preparation platform in which other guests join in building confidence in interviewing and communication. Lauren is extremely passionate about leveraging tech in education, creating opportunities for others, and finding unconventional paths to increase someone's chance of success. If you're looking to chat about a new idea, a current startup, or how you can enter the program as a founder with no idea but big dreams, she's here to help. Lauren is also a Wilfrid Laurier alumni who loves the KW startup ecosystem. Laura, I'm going to pass it over to you, and I'm going to mute myself, and then we'll chat after your presentation.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much, Juanita. So I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. Can you see that? Thumbs up. All good? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. So, hey guys, thank you so much for taking the time to attend this Lunch and Learn. I'm really excited to tell you all about Next 36. It's genuinely one of the best experiences I've ever had in my entire life. And it's definitely a transformational program, not just a 4-month accelerator that you get in, you get out, and you're over, but it's very much a founder development program that is geared towards making lifelong entrepreneurs and people who make really big impact in whatever they do. So that's why I became an ambassador, because I care so much about what Next 36 does, did so much for me, and I'm happy to pay it forward and help the next generation as well. So I'll give you guys a little bit of background on what Next 36 is all about, essentially the application process, what the program is, and then in the panel later, I'll give some tips and tricks of how to make the most of the program. And even though it's unfortunately virtual, how do you make the most of that and make an opportunity out of an unfortunate situation? So Next 36 is a founder development program, and it's for students and recent grads, and it's very much entrepreneurial focused. So basically the hybrid program, which is somewhat in person, somewhat virtual for next year, just not entirely sure just yet because everything's up in the air, as you guys all probably suspect. But essentially, the program offers you a couple of different things. One, founder development, like I mentioned. So you get this through mentorship, the alumni network, your cohort. Every single experience that you have with Next 36 is very much a founder development program. And part of that is that you get classes. So it actually feels like a mini MBA, because from May to August of the year that you're a part of Next 36, you attend classes every week. So this is things like financial management. So let's say one of the professors actually is a top Harvard professor who teaches finance and helps you understand, like, what is VC all about? How do you negotiate? How do you understand in between the lines, not just the term sheet, which is really helpful because you don't really learn that kind of expertise anywhere else. Second, you get things like economics of entrepreneurship, understanding case studies of where really popular entrepreneurs or not so popular entrepreneurs have gone right, but more so where they've gone wrong. So how do you assess a mistake, and how do you always make new mistakes, not continue to make the old mistakes? As well, you also get a chance to pitch for up to 50,000 in venture funding. So this is a great launchpad for you to start your company, because Next 36 has a committee that they're partnered with where they offer you that money. And this allows you to really start with your company. So it's definitely helped us because we were able to hire a couple people. We were able to have our server costs, all those different things covered. So it's definitely useful. And they give you a lot of advice along the way and treat you like a real VC meeting. So you learn so much in terms of pitching to VCs and understanding how that process works. As well, you always, well, we didn't get co-working space just yet, but you're supposed to get co-working space. So TBD on that. But as well, you always also get a network of mentors and alumni. This is probably the most valuable aspect to Next 36, because literally there's a mentor advisory like directory, as well as your cohort who have been through exactly what you're going through or know somebody who has if they haven't. And there hasn't been a time where I haven't messaged somebody in the cohort being like, listen, I'm going through this big problem right now. Do you have any idea? Have you experienced it? And they're always saying, yes, I know exactly what this is all about. I definitely feel you on that. So it's a very nice community field. And I think it's really important for being an entrepreneur because it can get pretty lonely sometimes. So having that community around you is very, very important. So for the people that they're looking for Next 36, every single person Next 36 is different. There's no one cookie cutter way to apply for this program. But in general, they're looking for people who are problem solvers, community leaders, academic leaders, and social champions. And this can literally be in any shape or form. There's no one standard, like I said. As well, you would be an undergrad, master's student, or a recent grad from school, so up to about 2.5 years. But it can be from any academic discipline. So nothing should stop you from applying to this program. And everybody, so half our cohort is engineers, business students, art students, you name it. There's such a mix every single year. So there's no problems there. But they're looking for people who are ready to change the world. And that's their big requirement. So we always look for people who have big ideas, big dreams. They will stop at nothing to accomplish what they want to. So really just think of that and be you, because that's the most important aspect to all of this. So I think the most important thing that I learned as well is that every single entrepreneur is different. There's no single recipe for what makes a perfect entrepreneur. And so I think that's the most exciting part, because you meet so many different types of people. And just some housekeeping things. In terms of eligibility, like I mentioned, undergrads, master's students, and recent grads, all schools, all programs, no problem, except for the fact that you have to commit 100% for the summer of 2021. So that means from May 2021 to August 2021. And that's because you're in classes all the time. You're constantly at events, mentor forums, classes, workshops, you name it. And it's very hard to work a full-time job or be full-time in school at that time. So even for your own benefit, the best thing to do is to be able to commit 100% for that summer, so you really get the most out of the program. As well, you have to have a pre-investment idea and founding team, or looking to start something brand new. So for example, myself, I looked to start something brand new. And then some of my friends in the cohort, they had ideas, but pre-investment. That's pretty important. So those are a couple of just small tips in terms of eligibility. By the way, if you're outside of that eligibility and you're still looking to apply, you can always message me. We can try and work something out. I can see if there's an exception that they can make. So always reach out, always try your hand at it. There's nothing can happen if you don't try, right? So give it a shot. In terms of our advantage of Next 36, our business faculty is literally one to none. They are the most inspiring people. We learn so much from them time and time again, and they literally drop everything to help us out in terms of class and further than that when they see the potential that we have as entrepreneurs. So it truly is a source of advantage for us, as well as the alumni network. Like I said, I could literally reach out to somebody who was in Next 36 10 years ago, and they'd be like, yes, let's chat. You are a Next 36 person. I'd love to chat to you. It's very much the sense of community that they've built. And they've definitely gone through the craziest experiences. So they have a lot to share as well. In terms of the actual program timeline, the applications are due October 14th. So that's the written application and the Kira Talent video interview. So if you are thinking of applying, you're in the middle of applying, no matter where you are in the application process, I'm one of the ambassadors for this year, and I'm totally happy to help because, like I said, I had so much fun with the program. I want to spread the love and help anybody else get in because it's such a great program. And so that's actually due on the 14th. And then we have a thing called National Selection Weekend. And that's when Next 36 invites 72 students, or 72 to 80 students, and they basically compete for a spot in the top 36. And once you get in, from December to January, that's the venture formation phase. So essentially, you either bring in your idea or you bring yourself, like I did, and you come up with an idea, form a team, all that good stuff. And then from January to 2021, that's the Entrepreneurship Institute. So everything I mentioned before, classes, workshops, you name it, as well as the investment tranches that Next 36 provides. Oh, sorry. Just a quick thing about our supporters. We have lots of different companies that help us out. They really make this whole thing happen, and they always bring in representatives from these companies to chat to us, give us very strong insights. So there's so many different opportunities to connect with people and get to know them. And I believe that's it in terms of Next 36. I'm happy to share more insights later during the panel or in Q&A if you have any questions. But essentially, just a reminder, October 14th is the deadline. And if you're on the fence of deciding whether to apply or not, you should 3000% apply, because there's nothing else that's better than doing something like this. And it's a very exciting time to do something like this as well, even in the times that we're in. So even if you're on the fence and you want to chat about if you think it's a good fit for you or not, that's what I'm here for, and the other ambassadors. So it's very much open for discussion. It's one of the best programs that I've ever been a part of. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And for now, that's everything.
Awesome. Thank you. That's super informative. And I think very much some of the same folks that Venture for Canada is looking for. So I'm excited to introduce Rehan Memon. Rehan's a Venture for Canada Fellow of the 2019 cohort. Fueled by his modest dream of becoming an Ironman, and he has that in quotes, he graduated from Carleton University with a degree in biomedical and electrical engineering. Rehan now works for DG Volo and Company, a boutique consulting firm in Toronto, where he develops sales strategies for private equity-owned B2B businesses generating $50 to $500 million in revenue. Since his early university days, Rehan has filled his free time with creative side projects, from wiring up a glove-controlled robotic hand to coding an organization app for his fraternity. Rehan remains an engineer at heart and continues to apply his technical skills where possible. Rehan, I will hand things over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Juanita. First time using Zoom. I'm a power user of Microsoft Teams, so let's see if this screen share works. Can everyone see that all right? Yep. Okay, awesome. Great. So thank you so much, Juanita, and thank you to whoever's joining us both here and on YouTube. I participated in the 2019 cohort, same summer that the Raptors won the NBA championship. So very historic, patriotic moment for me, very much anchored in my memory. And right now I'm a few days away from my 1-year anniversary at DG Volo and Company, which is a startup that I had connected with via Venture for Canada, and specifically through Priya, who's our Ontario recruiter at Venture for Canada. So as you can imagine, I have a lot of very positive things to say about VFC, and I'm super glad to have the opportunity to share that with you guys. All right, so first thing up front, just a quick social media plug. Make sure to connect with us on at Venture for Canada, wherever you get your social media, at Venture and number 4 Canada. This is a really good way to keep your ear to the ground to new developments, recruiting information, other fun stuff coming out of Venture for Canada, but also to learn about new developments in the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Canada in general. A lot of great stuff on our social media, so please check that out. I think what's a lot of people are here to learn about is more so the recruiting process, but I think before we do that, let's start up front with some information on what Venture for Canada is, and I'll try to describe that in my own words as I've experienced it. VFC was founded in July 2013 by Scott Sterrett, our fearless leader, and he was an ex-analyst at Goldman Sachs, I believe, so very much a highly coveted position, and he just knew very quickly that what he wanted to do was to return to Canada and actually start a national charity, Venture for Canada, that focused on accelerating the growth of Canadian youth, Canadian startups, and kind of, cultivating a much stronger Canadian network of entrepreneurs across the country. And that's exactly what he did. So, here we are 7 years later, and though VFC does like to say that it's still in its adolescence, still on its entrepreneurial journey, it certainly doesn't feel that way. I think I really, really mean it when I say that there's no more fun and expeditious way of becoming embedded in the incredible entrepreneurial ecosystem that we have here in Canada, not just in the province that any of you may reside in, but actually across the country, than joining this program. And that certainly has been the case for me. So I think what I can do here is actually walk through a little bit of what my experience has been with VFC as part of the 2019 cohort. And as we go through that, I know that there are some adjustments that have had to be made. Next 36 has had to make similar adjustments, of course, as well. Everyone has regarding COVID-19. So things may be a little different, but assuming you're admitted to the fellowship program, really the first leg of your journey is around entrepreneurial skill development. And during this time, what you're doing is you're learning the fundamentals of founding a startup and working for a startup. But equally as important, you're also meeting, like-minded 20-somethings, recent grads that have graduated from institutions across the country. So 35 plus in this case, as our current history stands. And for my cohort, this entrepreneurial skill development was in the form of a training camp that happened over 1 month at Queen's University. And I have to say, just the most fun experience ever. It was a situation where I'm sure a lot of you are familiar if you've lived on res in university. Many people will identify with that and say that it is one of the best experiences of their life. Now, imagine that, but everyone that's living in your residence building is just awesome people filled with entrepreneurial spirit who have been filtered through this careful curation process that Venture for Canada has. So needless to say, I loved every single person that I met during that time and had many amazing memories. And I'm sure people from Next 36 have had similar excellent memories too with their cohorts during the summer as well. So from there, you go from learning in this formal lecture style environment right into the school of hard knocks, working for an established Canadian startup yourself. And I think that's where the key differentiator would be between these two programs. If you were to think about it that way. Next 36, it's really like, jump off the cliff and learn how to fly on the way down. And that's one of the best ways to learn in a lot of cases. And then for some people who feel like, hey, I feel like I still have some more to learn. I am in the market for more of an apprenticeship type experience. I think that's one of the greatest things that you get out of Venture for Canada is being paired with some of these startups where you can really apprentice under incredible mentors, startups that have been vetted by Venture for Canada to be excellent learning environments for our fellows. And at this point, we have 330 plus fellows. And I think in combination with our internship program, that's over 1,000 participants in total. And I think the last thing I want to comment on here is really what I think to be the best part about Venture for Canada is that when you work for one of these startups, you get supported with VFC, exclusive access to the Venture for Canada job portal, where companies like my own, DG Volo & Company, we exclusively post our jobs on the VFC portal. We accept resumes from people who want to send them to us, but we will only ever post listings on VFC. That's an excellent way that you're supported. But once you're actually working for these companies, you continue to have ongoing support in the form of continued access to learning research, to learning resources, as well as dynamically scheduled webinars, lectures, seminars, workshops, whatever synonym of those you want to choose. And those are an excellent way to just reconnect with fellows that you've met, fellows from previous cohorts and more. Really excellent way that you continue to upgrade your skills as you go. But the best part, I think, is that also that community follows you to wherever you relocate, even if it's in the city that you already live in. You have a bunch of fellows that are also working for startups that understand the unique challenges that your business and you face. And it's just such a supportive community. These are the people that when you're starting a business or when they're starting a business, you're reaching out to each other. These are the groups that are going to form around startups, and it's happened before. Yeah, so I think this is probably a good place to start talking about the application experience. So exactly how would you get into this program? So eligibility up front, what are the hard criteria that you need to meet here? For this upcoming cohort, we've recently welcomed in our 6th, but for the 7th, you need to be graduated between fall 2018 and spring 2021. You have to hold a post-secondary degree or diploma from a Canadian post-secondary, or be a Canadian who has studied abroad. You have to be legally eligible to work in Canada. You have to be available to begin to start searching for work as soon as you're accepted. And then, of course, these are also hard criteria, in my opinion. You have to be a lifelong learner. You have to be eager and committed to complete our year-long training program as well. And you have to be adaptable, self-efficacious, driven, and willing to learn to deal with ambiguity. And these are things that we definitely try to vet throughout the application process. It's more about who you are, who you have the potential to be, and what you're driven to become, rather than who you are and what your past experiences are and how you exist on paper. So in the selection process, I think this is what a lot of people are curious about. The first stage is the application process, which has to be the application that needs to be completed by October 29th. Second part will be recording your video interview, which you can do in the comfort of your own home. You'll be sent a question, and you'll have a few minutes, I believe, to prepare. At least in my case, that was how it went. And then you record your answer to this question. This is more of an opportunity for you to showcase the person that you are, your personality, less so talking about all your various qualifications and past experiences. That's more something to be written down in the applications. And if all goes well, this is the type of thing that's going to be looked at by alumni, by the team, industry leaders as well. And there are many different stakeholders involved in the selection process that then goes on to the virtual selection event. In my case, that was in person, but really the virtual selection event is going to function exactly in the same way, where you're doing a lot of challenges and you're showcasing your ability to collaborate with other people, your passion, your ability to work on the spot, and how you think through problems. I have had quite a few friends actually apply for the cohort that came just after me, so the cohort that was just welcomed in. And many of them asked, both in the fall and the winter recruiting periods, hey, how do I prepare for this virtual selection event, or selection events in the case of fall? And my advice was just always the same. Like, I don't really know what to tell you. I think the best advice I can give, and the advice that I believe Juanita often gives, is really just show up as your best self. Show that you're willing to collaborate with people. Show that you are ambitious and very willing to learn and grow, because that's really it. You're not coming in with all the answers, and especially a big thing that I need to drive home to anyone who's an aspiring entrepreneur considering applying to Venture for Canada or otherwise. Really, building a business is a team sport, so you do need to demonstrate your ability to work with others, to make sure that other people get the spotlight as well. And that's why when I met my cohort for the first time and made those connections, these were all just the most generous, kind-hearted people you'll ever meet. And that is the type of person that you are looking for this kind of program. So then after that, that's when selection happens, and you'll be notified when you get your official offer to the program. You'll be invited to join this whole 1-year-long entrepreneurial skills training program, and you'll be introduced to the teams, the training team, and the support team that's also going to help you immediately start applying to Venture for Canada partnered startups. So I did already steal the punchline from this slide, actually, speaking about the whole program and how it works up front, so I'm not going to linger on this one. but just again to talk about the positioning of Venture for Canada in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, how it coexists with programs like Next 36. I think the big thing to drive home is that everyone here is filled with ambition. I think especially in a crowd like this, and that is a beautiful thing. But there is something to be said about taking some swimming lessons before you dive into the deep end. And I think that's where Venture for Canada really does thrive. It's a situation where it is a training program, it is a mentorship program, and it aims to equip you with the tools to maximize your success when you go to join a Next 36, when you go to start your own business out there in the wild. One thing that you should definitely meditate on is that the timing is, of course, never going to be perfect, but you only become better equipped to start a business as time goes on. You're never worse off for the time that you spend to learn and grow. So if you are willing to be patient and humble and acknowledge that there is a lot left for you to learn, I think that's a great mindset to come into Venture for Canada and Next 36 for that matter, with that growth mindset. So last thing to touch on is the bottom right corner there, my company, an amazing company, but then of course the wider breadth of diverse partnered startups that you can be a part of here. It can be something like Ripen in the top left corner, an ed tech company that it really does feel like half that team is Venture for Canada, at least from my experience. They have multiple offices in Canada, one in Vancouver, one in Toronto. And yeah, very much more of an established Canadian startup, right down to the bottom right here, DG Volo and Company, which is a strategy consulting firm that I work for, a 6-person operation, and we do strategy consulting for private equity businesses. So really a diverse group of startups here, and this is actually quite a good reflection of the breadth of different businesses that you're going to see as part of the Venture for Canada job portal. So really, this is a platform for you to create any kind of career that you want to. And also just to touch on the common roles that you're going to see are like more business development, customer success, operations consultants, business analysts, but also a lot of technical roles as well. So whoever you are, whatever your degree is, whatever you're looking to accomplish, there's generally going to be a good fit for you in some of these startups. So that's it from me. Of course, if you have any questions, this email address, admissions@ventureforcanada.ca, is the best place to address them. But I'm, of course, open to answering any personal questions during the panel session.
Amazing. Thank you, Rehan. That's fantastic. I think everybody has all the information that they need to know about how to apply to each program, and whether you want to work at a startup first and kind of dip your toes into entrepreneurship, or whether you're ready to take that plunge and dive into the entrepreneurial space. There's options, and more, I think, than ever before, entrepreneurial skills and being entrepreneurial is critical for us to reflect on systemic issues that have become more prevalent over the past year. And being entrepreneurial and having entrepreneurial mindsets will lead Canada and the world towards a more equitable future. I think that's a future that we need to build collectively. And that is why partnerships like this are so important. And connecting one another to the right opportunities is also so important. Innovation and entrepreneurship are about solving real complex problems. And I'm so excited to introduce the rest of our panel, who is also doing that. Natasha Dayugude is a 2020 Next Founders alumni and currently the CEO and co-founder of Chinova Bioworks. The company was founded in 2016 and is a food technology company developing natural, clean label preservatives extracted from mushrooms. Natasha was named and awarded Startup Canada's Young Entrepreneur of the Year in 2017 and Startup Canada's Women Entrepreneur of the Year in 2019. Since then, she's raised $2.5 million in investment from major food tech VCs and has formed strategic partnerships with major multinational producers in the food tech industry. She's headquartered in Atlantic, Canada, and her passion is to educate, support, and mentor youth, especially to enter into STEM fields. Her team consists of 90% of women in STEM fields, and Natasha is also a Venture for Canada alumni. And Leah Davidson is a 2016 Next 36 alumnus and is currently the co-founder of Canduit, a virtual work integrated learning platform for higher ed students. Canduit has been part of many global accelerators, including 757 Accelerate, Startup Chile, Tech Diversity Accelerator with Tampa Bay Wave, Acumen Civic X Accelerator, Seed Starts, UTC Ventures in Lima, Peru. Leah graduated in business from the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, and during her time at Next, she served as COO of Access Now. Leah's passionate about social entrepreneurship, particularly how technology can improve outcomes for marginalized groups through education, climate change, and poverty. Leah has represented Canada internationally at the UN Y20 and the World Economic Forum, and has been recognized as one of the top 30 under 30 sustainability leaders in Canada by Corporate Knights. So if you're talking about ambitious and high achieving and solving real problems, these 4 folks are folks that you should connect with to learn more about, your own next steps. We're just going to ask people some questions, and I have some questions starting with Natasha. So Natasha, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about your experience as a VFC fellow and recently as a Next founder, having already founded Genova Bioworks.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much for the very warm introduction. I'm really happy to be here. So just to give you a little background of what my VFC experience was like. So I was part of the 2017 cohort of VFC. And at the time, the program was just launched in Atlantic, Canada. So I was the first person actually from the East Coast in New Brunswick to participate in the program. I think where the program added a great deal of value for me was I have a technical background. So this was kind of my first time being exposed to the world of entrepreneurship, startups, learning more about the business world. So it was a huge learning curve. So it was really immersive experience. I had access to great mentors that I didn't even know existed in my own backyard in New Brunswick, even if it's a small province. We have amazing experts from a variety of different sectors who really helped me and encouraged me into kind of accelerating my growth and taking the next step with what was to become Kainova. I had access to an amazing cohort of people that were interested in the same things that I was and going through the same challenges as I was as well. Access to amazing workshop sessions to learn things from sales strategies to marketing to just learning about entrepreneurship as a whole. And for someone with a background like mine, that was really fundamental in my learning how to try and translate my technical textbook knowledge and commercialize it into an actual business to be able to solve a real world problem. So my experience with VFC, I feel, really propelled me to start and build Kainova. After 5 years of kind of growing the business, I decided to apply to the Next Founders Program. So I just was part of the 2020 cohort in this stream. So our company was kind of at the right stage for this program. We were ready to accelerate the growth of the company. And then by getting access to mentors, we were in the middle of doing a raise. So it gave us the platform that we needed to really get out there and be in front of like potential investors and potential clients. And then also personally for me as a founder to help further develop my skill set and knowledge. So both experiences really helped me at very specific stages in my professional career as well as personally.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about Next Founders and what the difference would be between Next Founders and Next 36?
Yes, for sure. So the biggest difference is I think Next 36 is more revolved around recent grads, whereas Next Founders is really focused on high growth stage scalable companies. So just to kind of talk through a little bit in terms of the eligibility for the program, what they're looking for the Next Founder stream, they're really looking for kind of high growth ventures, inventors and researchers with technology that they want to commercialize. The ideal candidate would definitely be someone who's kind of from the STEM background with little formal business education. The program is industry agnostic, so it doesn't matter really what sector you come from. it does matter though the stage of the venture. So they're looking from anywhere from pre-seed to seed stage. And then raising funding. I mean, this is a great platform for that because it gives you access to a set of investors and things like that. So people that have kind of a formal team in place, co-founder in place, past the ideation stage looking to raise.
Thank you. What's next for you now that you've gone through, and what is like your next big goal?
That's a great question. So actually during this time, we came into revenue. So we're working with a lot of small to medium-sized brands as well as large multinational brands in the food and beverage space. And then our next goal is to raise another round of investment. So we're going to actually be closing, it's October 6th, so closing another round of investment end of November, and then gearing up for a larger round of investment probably mid next year. So raising. That's what we're focused on. Yeah.
Exciting. We are here to support, and fingers crossed for a lot of raising and for exciting time. Leah, I'd love to kind of get your insights on, going into Next 36. You're the founder and CEO of Can Do It. Did you have this idea going into the program, or did you come up with it while you were participating in the Next 36 cohort?
Yeah, so I actually worked on a different venture during the Next 36. So this is my second venture. And that happens quite a bit. A lot of people end up pivoting or also like changing or kind of going on to found another venture after the program. And I think what the program was really useful for is taking me through the entire entrepreneurial process from start to finish. So everything from finding co-founders to building a product, raising funding, trying to find product market fit. And so I went through all of that with the first venture in the Next 36, and then kind of knew what I was getting myself into the second time. So that was a very valuable learning experience. And I think when you go through the Next 36, you realize that there are a lot of problems like every day to solve. So the first venture in the Next 36 was Access Now, and it's an accessibility mapping platform for people with disabilities. And that was founded, the founder of Access Now, Mayan Ziv, has muscular dystrophy. So it was based on a problem she had faced her whole life of gaining access to places and not knowing which places were accessible for people with wheelchairs. And so that's like one of the problems that she wanted to solve in the Next 36, and I helped on the business side. And then with Can Do It, in terms of getting access to kind of bridging the college to career gap, is a problem that I had faced as a first generation college student, not having parents or mentors who had gone through higher education. So what we're trying to do now is help students get more access to virtual learning opportunities and actually apply their skills in a real world setting. So I think that's what the Next 36 taught me, is to always be on the lookout for interesting problems to solve, and also taught me the process of like turning those into action and getting the resources to do that.
Yeah, and speaking of applying your own world experience to creating a solution for it, in 2016, when you applied to the program, what was that final push that got you to apply, and that final motivation that you were, that you said, yes, I'm going to take the leap and I'm going to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I had looked at the Next 36 since I was in high school, so I'd always wanted to apply. But I think for me, it was like I knew I wanted to be a social entrepreneur. I knew that's something I wanted to do in the future. And the Next 36 seemed like the most supportive environment to do that in. A lot of the other programs require you to have like an idea with traction and sales going into the program, and you have to have the team already. But the Next 36, they really select you based on who you are as a person. So your story, your personal background. So you don't necessarily have to have started a business before. So it's a really good setting for people who may like the idea or think they like the idea of entrepreneurship, but they don't necessarily know how to get started. Because the Next 36, they really help you find people who are a good fit for your team. And they also like help you with that ideation process. And so people have come in with nothing going into the Next 36, and then a couple years later they have $1 million businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses. So it's a really good and safe learning environment for people who may want to take that risk but need like an extra push to get started.
Yeah, that safety net and supportive environment is super important for people who have the potential to succeed and need to explore their potential. And I think that's what both programs do, is like invest in individuals that are very willing to invest in themselves and have their potential like really come through, which is great to see. Rayhan, I'm going to move over to you, and I think you were the president of Hatch, which is Carleton University's entrepreneurship startup incubator. I might be wrong, but about what it exactly is. But you're a leader in your university's entrepreneurial ecosystem, and you were also advising startups at the time. What has been the biggest shift for you in that university to career trajectory, and what have you learned over the last year as a VFC fellow in terms of what you thought you knew versus what you know now?
Sounds good. I realize I did you absolutely no favors with the intro I'd written you. I definitely should have included the experience at Hatch, but just to elaborate on that, Hatch is the student-run incubator at Carleton University, and not a rinky-dink operation either. We had a $60,000 budget, and we would bring in 10 startups per year, student-led startups per year. Help them through the ideation phase, building a business model, fleshing that out, doing some validation, and then preparing them to pitch either to venture capital firms or to other incubators. More often than not, it was other incubators and accelerators. So in doing that, there were a few successful businesses that came out of that. And there was a whole lot of arrogance in me, honestly, because being someone from an engineering background, and then having had so much exposure to startups as well, seeing where they failed, seeing where they succeeded, it really did feel to me like, hey, I can go out and start a business tomorrow. I'm the next Mark Zuckerberg, except I finished university. Like, that's how I felt about me. But then you go into Venture for Canada, and you do the classroom stuff. It was a lot of stuff that I felt like I knew, a lot of stuff that was actually new information to me. But really, I think the greatest thing that I gained was the experience that I continue to have at my startup, DG Volo and Company. I keep saying my startup, but it's someone else's startup, but one that I work for. 6-person operation, and in doing that, like, really, you can read all the books you want and premeditate on all the different challenges that you might face as a business builder. But there's so many things that you'll never anticipate, and you'll never really have exposure to, or really even develop the grit to know how to manage without going and seeing it for yourself and experiencing it for yourself. And I'm sure I might get some nods from Natasha, Leah, and Lauren on this one, because they're all starting their own businesses. But really, when it comes down to things like learning about burn rate and managing that, and knowing, okay, how do I make sure that I'm pricing my work correctly, and I have the right number of people on payroll. Employee turnover, that is the most painful thing ever. How do I stop that from happening? Managing the debt structure of a business as well. Also, am I hiring people for senior roles who are tenured veterans who know what they're doing, and I'm okay with the idea that they might leave quickly. I might have to pay really high exorbitant salaries in order to get them. Or do I hire young people who I can build their capabilities and be patient, and over time they can ascend to those management roles that I need to fill now? There are all these different questions that you need to answer, and questions you don't even anticipate until you go into a startup and see what those challenges are. So I think the best thing I got out of Venture for Canada, to tie it up in a pretty bow, is an ego check, a much needed ego check.
That's great. I'm glad. I think those are important to kind of have too, right? Lauren, you talked a little bit about your experience, but I'm really curious, I think, about the experience going through a program like this in a virtual environment, and what that means for, our new normal. You mentioned things like you're kind of working from home, and what do you think that looks like in the future for entrepreneurs that want to participate in programs like Venture for Canada or Next 36?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's something that my cohort and I were super nervous about when we heard that everything was going virtual, because all the ambassadors before us told us the best part is living with your cohort. The best part is being around everybody, being around all these entrepreneurs, having all this energy. And then all of a sudden they were like, okay, so sorry guys that we can't do this anymore. And so one strong theme throughout the entire summer was adaptability and that resilience to how do we say that instead of, oh, this is like really sucky, like we hate the fact that we have to do this online, how do we turn this into an actual opportunity? And Next 36 did a really great job, because what I found was the downside was obviously I can't work with my cohort and live with them, but I haven't found there's a loss or lack of connection with my cohort. And so a ton of it is really putting in the time yourself. And for myself, that was reaching out to a bunch of people in the class and always doing coffee chats and asking them questions randomly. And actually now in the past month, we've met up in Toronto a couple times. So like games nights and things like that when it's safe to do so. But we really focus on constant communication. And Next 36 offered ways for us to get in contact more, kind of have more conversation. But classes were never really different. I was nervous every single time. So that was, I'm sure, the same sentiment I would have felt if it was in person or not. But I think it's all about the opportunity that you kind of create out of it. So I would try to section off time in my week to contact people that I had never talked to before, or reach out to Next AI or Next Founders, let's say like that, a couple of people here and there. I mean, it gets pretty busy sometimes, so you forget, but it's always kind of coming back to that, being like, okay, let's chat to somebody, learn something new, find a new connection for somebody, etc. And I think that's where a lot of the change comes from. But I think we have to adapt, because it's not like we're going back to everything being, it's going to be a new normal, not going back to normal. And so everyone's in the same boat and everyone's trying to find ways to make this the best experience ever. And at one point we will be able to all see each other. So we're looking forward to that type of time. But really with the program, it's all about what you put into it, because Next 36 values people who really put the effort in. So I'm sure that's the same for Venture for Canada. If you're going to put 100% effort in, you'll get 100% effort right back to you. And so I think that's extremely important.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think things that you mentioned, like adaptability, having the ability to pivot. Leah, you talked about this, was going through an experience as well, reflecting on it, and then starting again, right? Like having that grit and resilience too. If something has come to an end, you have to look for something new. Experimentation and checking your ego is also something really important as you kind of go through the journey, right? Sometimes you can get caught up in the middle of things. And I think what you kind of brought at the end, this idea that it's really the commitment that you're willing to put in yourself. It's the time that you invest in yourself, the time that you're investing in the program, the time that you're investing in the community, the time that you are committing to being a part of something that is this large collective of the entrepreneurship ecosystem is really how you're going to get those returns. And I think that is the type of person that both programs are looking for in a way that you are going to continue to grow and know that the journey is about like ongoing learning, and that learning like doesn't stop, and that checking your assumptions and that ego check is a constant thing. I'd love to know what you're most excited for in the next year, like what beyond just you're excited about the program, but like what are you most excited about in this journey for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we just graduated Next 36, I also just graduated from university. So now I'm full-time working on the company, which is super exciting because it's usually been school, company, something else, or something in the company. So it's nice to actually be able to focus on it 100%. So now we're actually focused on, so with ACE, we're actually selling to career centers at universities, and we have one pilot going right now, and then in the process of signing a couple others. And so we're really ramping up full time there. As well, my team is going full time as well, which is super exciting for a bunch of students who now have all this free time. So we're here to learn the entire time. And I would say in the next year, in terms of Next 36, I love being an ambassador because it's so much fun to meet all these new people who are going to come into the next year's cohort and kind of just build that community more and more as much as we possibly can. And then also seeing how we get to meet up in the next year, hopefully, fingers crossed. But as for the business, it's more so focused on growing as a interview prep platform. And then once we kind of go and dominate the entire interview prep space, we're going to move towards becoming your go-to communications training platform. So we're kind of looking to launch and then grow. So it's going to be a very hectic but exciting year, hopefully. So
excited for you. I don't see any questions from our attendees, or I think my support team is checking for questions elsewhere. So we're just going to jump into kind of like our closing questions, and we can go in the same order. So Natasha, Leah, Rehan, and Lauren, in your opinion, what is the -- barrier to entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial careers? And I think we've talked a lot about this. How do programs like VFC and Next 36, VFC's fellowship and Next 36 help address this barrier?
Yes. So I think from the experience that I've had, I always say, like, people don't know what they don't know. So not knowing where to start is, I think, one of the main barriers to starting your own business. It was my biggest experience and my biggest barrier. So you have this idea, you don't know what to do with the idea. You don't know how to grow it. You don't know how to build it. You just don't know how to nurture it. So I think that's really where programs like VFC and Next come into play. I just find that these programs offer so much support, networks like guidance and mentorship, so that the founder is able to understand how they can go about growing their idea into an actual viable commercial business. It shows you that you're not alone in your journey, and that there are other like-minded individuals that also feel the same way as you. They're also trying to navigate their own entrepreneurial journeys. It just doesn't make you feel so alone in the process. And then the connection and network from these programs is just key for any founder to continue to develop and grow their own businesses. Access to networks and experts that give you knowledge that can help you kind of carve out different aspects of your business, I think, are fundamental and were really key for me, that these programs were able to offer. Things like building your business model, building your value proposition, keeping your ego in check, telling you when an idea is a good one and when it's something that maybe you shouldn't pursue, letting you know that, you know, if you failed at something, this is kind of how you relearn from it. And this is how you navigate failure, are very important aspects of what these programs can really teach you and help you as you continue to grow your business. So I think those are the most important aspects of what the guidance that these programs are able to kind of build to help people on their entrepreneurial journeys.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great recap. Laura, who did I say was next? Rehan or Leah?
Yeah, I can go. So I think one of the barriers that they talked about during the Next 36 is there are not a lot of like women and minorities in entrepreneurship. And so I think one of the things that the Next 36 did a really good job at is bringing in female mentors and also having like women's like networking events and like mentorship. And so and also seeing like female investors in like the VC space. So I think cultivating that community and helping people see role models like who look like them and who have maybe experienced some of the challenges that they're going through is something that is really helpful to making a more inclusive environment for pursuing entrepreneurship. And so, yeah, I think it's something that we want to be cognizant of as well when we're encouraging people to apply, is that the Next 36 is really looking as well for like diverse candidates. And they do provide the supportive infrastructure for people who may be facing barriers like financial barriers to pursuing entrepreneurship. The Next 36 is like, I think it costs around $30,000 per entrepreneur to deliver, but all of those costs are underwritten by philanthropists and donors. So it's free the program is free. And there's also, when they used to do like the housing component, there was financial aid available for that as well. So there's really an effort to make sure that there are not barriers standing in people's way if they want to experience the program.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Rehan.
So for me, I'd say the biggest barrier for people trying to start a business, I think in general, startups are very supply constrained as far as the human capital goes, like very good people who are fit for purpose for what you need to do, what you need them to do, and finding good people to fill roles and to really just bet on a company and be paid, be compensated in stocks in a company that's worth nothing. Like that's that is a very special thing to find people like that who are down to grind it out with you, without really the promise of any compensation at the end of it. Those are big bets that they're taking, and really highly qualified people could go and get a good salary anywhere else, right? But somehow you need to get them to work with you. So it's this weird paradox where how do you make that happen? And I wouldn't really know, coming out of high school, definitely coming out of university to a degree as well, who are those people that I'm going to call on, who I want to work with, who are going to be down to work with me and that I trust to hold out their end of the bargain and I can, invest in. In the case of Venture for Canada and Next 36, what I think they really do well in helping you out with that barrier and bringing that down is by, of course, connecting you with other like-minded people who are entrepreneurially minded. By default, you've carefully curated these people to come into your cohort. And these are people that you can trust to listen to your idea, that have passed a certain filtering process of understanding what's required of them when they go into a startup, the risks involved with it. And there's a level of trust there and the level of understanding. And I think if I were to start a business, the people I would call on is the Venture for Canada community primarily. And I'm sure the Next 36 founders would say the exact same thing about their cohorts. So that's the biggest barrier to me, and how these programs help with that.
Awesome. Lauren, I'll let you kind of wrap this up.
Yeah, absolutely. So Natasha touched on all the points I was going to say, so she really covered it. So I won't repeat them because she said it so well. But just one that I was going to add is kind of the fear and loneliness that you can have as an entrepreneur sometimes, because let's say with Next 36 or Venture for Canada, at the time that you're doing it, all your friends around you are either doing co-op jobs or getting full-time jobs right out of university. And there could be family pressure, there could be financial pressure. There's so many things happening around you that are saying, don't go into entrepreneurship because it's so easy to fail and not that many companies make it to even the second year. And that can really weigh down on you. That would stop you from trying to solve this problem and start a company. But when you actually start it and you have all these people around you who are saying, A, we're rooting for you, and B, here's how I went through this experience and we share that with you, is the most comforting way to be in such an uncomfortable position, I think. And so I think that's one of the main things that Next 36 and Venture for Canada can offer people, because you literally can't cultivate that anywhere else outside of a program, because it's hard to find a group of 36 people who are as crazy as you to start something and venture out on your own and do something like that, as well as the community feel that you get from both programs. So I think that would be a big barrier, but programs like this 100% make you feel more okay with doing something like that.
That's awesome. I'm going to, in a little bit of a recap, I think what you all said was invest in your learning, invest in building community and building networks that support you and can relate to what you're going through. Seek mentorship. And so instead of kind of opening it to a final question on tips, what people can do is go on our social and connect with each one of you on LinkedIn, as well as we'll kind of share the recording of this on our YouTube. So I have everybody's email, and I encourage folks to reach out to our wonderful group of panelists to learn more about how to apply and what they've gained from these programs. And then also identify your risk threshold. That is a really big one. Before you kind of apply, think around like what your risk threshold is, and if you want to put yourself in uncomfortable learning situations where you're going to grow. That's definitely a headspace to approach both programs with. And then I think at the end, like, connect with organizations, reach out to the people there, see what supports they can provide you if you don't think that you have either financial capacity or other types of barriers that you're facing, because supports are always offered. And I think that those are some great closing words that I'll leave it with, but please connect with our panelists. They have, the folks at Next have referral codes. Rehan, also, you can drop his name if you apply to Venture for Canada's fellowship program, as well as Natasha's, and I will share all this info on our social channels in the About section of both the YouTube video and on the recap of our LinkedIn and on our Twitter as well. How does that sound? Good? Cool. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate all of you and appreciate your time, and so grateful to have learned so much from all of you and really admire the paths that you've taken and can't wait to continue to see where your entrepreneurial journeys take each and every single one of you.
Thank you, Juanita.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.